72, becoming partly cloudy tomorrow night, low 50 degrees. Then for Saturday, a mix of clouds and sunshine, highs right around 70 degrees. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Danielle Niddle.
Hurt in an accident? I can't help you. But if you've invented a new product, improved an existing device, or need help registering a trademark, call me, attorney Gary Topolowski, at 877-5-PATENT. I've been helping clients protect their ideas for nearly 35 years. Email me at patentlawyerpittsburgh.com. Ask about my discounts for veterans and seniors. 877-572-8368. Now's the time to pursue your dreams, but let's protect them first.
Dennis Prager explains how the left works.
The use of government power for political ends, that is exactly what the left is about, has always been about. There are no limits to the efforts it will make using government to suppress its foes. There are no limits. This is a very scary thing.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at noon, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 1250. The Answer.
The Penguins stink. Fire the coach. Yeah, I just figured I should get that out of the way early because that's what a lot of people, maybe most people, are talking about today around here. The Penguins lost to the Islanders last. Got to be at least 5 or 6 games. Where they have no chance to win that. We start talking about other things like, should Mike Sullivan be fired or be on the hot seat? Anyway, on to other things. It was a bad day for Julian Assange. He was dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy in London in handcuffs today. It's not a good day for you. He's in jail. And in a few minutes, we will talk to a writer who's been following this and find Vatican covering the Pope. Actually, from Italy, we'll be talking to somebody. And the Pope has a problem this Pope has a problem that no other Pope has had for 800 years. And that's a former Pope who's still alive and talking to the media. Now, I don't know if the former Pope, 800 probably did put out, and it's all about clergy abuse. And they're terrified of me, of my power that I have with Twitter. You can follow me at Steigerwald, and you can watch up the opportunity to see me. $14.96 724. Seeing the smiles on the faces of the players as they take the field. as a miracle. Ground and state-of-the-art ADA changing tables and more. It's incredible. Check it out at miraclesinmoon.org/donate and make your tax-deductible gift today.
Windows R Us will never overcharge. You'll love their no-pressure sales approach, straightforward pricing, and the fastest turnaround in the business. Right now, get zero interest for 12 months on up to $20,000. Windows R Us will match any competitor's price. No hidden fees or surprises ever. Schedule a free roof inspection today. Mention AM 1250 for an exclusive 10% off. Why pay double? Visit the area's premier exterior replacement company. Windows R Us, more than a window company. Visit windowsruspittsburgh.com.
Relief Factor is made from high-quality fish oil and essential nutrients. Gives your body the help it needs to aid fighting recurring aches and pains. When life's aches and pains get you down, you need relief. Physicians made Relief Factor as an essential way to support the body's fight against aches. Remarkable product. It has worked. I only endorse it because it helps her knee pain. I didn't even know she was taking it. Then when it was mentioned, she said, oh yeah, this stuff is like magic. Look, there are people who've told me they've postponed or delayed or simply negated surgery because of Relief Factor. That's how powerful it is. Go to www.relieffactor.com. That's relieffactor.com, or call 800-500-8384. That's 800-500-8384. This remarkable product is called Relief Factor, relieffactor.com.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, Julian Assange finally got out of the Ecuadorian embassy in London. He'd been there since 2012 and had never left. That's the good news for him. Bad news is that he's now in a jail cell for at least another 4 or 5 years. He was dragged out of the embassy in handcuffs today. David Harsanyi is a senior editor at the Federalist. He's here to tell us what all of this means. Thanks for being here, David.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I'm glad I have someone here because, I sort of understand what's going on here, but I think you have a better idea of what this is all about and can tell us. So how big of a deal is him finally losing asylum?
Well, it's a very big deal for him. I think.
Yeah.
He's going to be coming over here, and for the initial indictment is about conspiracy to basically hack into secret documents and then disseminate them. I think that might just be, as from lawyers that I trust, that might just be sort of a stand-in indictment. There'll be much more specific things coming down the line, and I guess the big debate will be, is he just a publisher, or is this a matter of free speech, or is he someone who engaged in espionage and spying, and what's the difference between those things?
Yeah,
so I think the debate is more important than him actually being here or not, in my opinion.
Right, and that's what you write about in your piece. So what happens next? I guess he's going to be extradited. I wonder. I don't know if you know how long of a process that might be before we see him frog walked somewhere in the United States.
I don't know, honestly. I think generally it wouldn't be a very long process because obviously this negotiation has probably been going on behind the scenes for a pretty long time. It just doesn't happen, you know what I mean? So I think everything's probably sort of set into place. So
as you said, I guess the question is this guy an heroic whistleblower or is he a dangerous spy?
Definitely don't think he's heroic for many reasons. So I'm very sympathetic to arguments about free speech and really allowing there to be whistleblowers and allowing there him, at least if we read the indictment, and it's and taking top secret information and disseminating it. My problem with him personally is I think he's just an anti-American who's not equally concerned about governments everywhere and just trying to embarrass the United States and hurt the United States. So for me, on a personal level, I dislike him and all that. I just want to make sure that the government here is doing the right thing, and we're not just being oppressors of some guy who's trying to perform.
Did he have a special problem with the United States or all governments, or has he changed his story on that, or will he change his story on that?
I don't know. I think initially he probably was more of a person who was idealistic, but the fact of the matter is, right during the election, someone, he was sent a large cache of potential Russian information, and he refused to publish it. So that, to me, says he's not equally concerned about all governments, especially ones that are, somewhat more authoritarian than we are, like Russia.
Yeah, and what I wonder about is, they didn't have computers like this in World War II, but should everybody be a little bit worried that this guy was able to do what he did, more so than what he did after he did it? I mean, should it be that easy for somebody to break into the U.S. government's computers? I mean, what if this is 1945 and he was looking around for the atomic bomb,
Well, unfortunately, we have a long history of giving up secrets, right? So I think that's a big problem in general. But yeah, I mean, he wouldn't have been able to do this without the help of then Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning, who he worked with and who was the person who had access to these files and this cache of information. So so he didn't do it on his own. He couldn't hack in on his own. He had to have help from the inside. And if that person was prosecuted, I get a little tripped up, not sure what to say, she or he or what's going on.
Yeah.
But if she was prosecuted, and I think 35 years, Obama commuted the sentence. But I'm not sure why he shouldn't face a similar sort of justice, since they worked together and they were doing basically the same thing.
Yeah, he. Bradley Manning, and now she is Chelsea Manning, and I think what's good about it, Dave. So the conflict here is there a conflict? I guess I should say, for journalists, and where do you draw the line on freedom of speech and espionage, or should that even be the media's job? And how do you think most of the media are going to react to all this?
Well, they used to like the guy until Donald Trump won the election with the whistleblower not handing you something. You don't even go through it as and
to that the landing on the beaches of Normandy will be taking place on June 6th, and you find that out on June the 3rd, and you're a reporter. If you want to be totally objective, you report it. But if you want to protect, if you're considering a citizen, and first, then you don't report it. And this wasn't that big of a deal, but it could be at some point.
No, I actually think it was a big deal because I mean, it wasn't like a big deal like Normandy, but it was a big deal in the sense that there was tons of sensitive information out there, and frankly, some of it was useful for people to see and needed to be seen, I think, at least. So it's not so cut and dry all the time. And what you're saying is, it's a big problem for journalists quite often. I think with like Normandy or something, you say, is there really news value in this? People are going to die, if I let everyone know what's going on. So I'll save this story and I'll write about it afterwards, or whatever. In this case, it's clear to me. I mean, we used to hang spies, right? I mean,
right.
We probably wouldn't do that anymore, but it's still dangerous. We'd still have people around the world whose identities are, secret, and I don't think you redacted anything in these papers that they dropped. So, and I could be wrong about that, but I don't think they did. So it's dangerous.
On the vote?
I don't think so. I mean, people get mad when I say that, but I mean, I think that that was more of an internal fight within the Democratic Party. I'm not sure anyone who was going to vote for Hillary said, boy, John Podesta's not a nice guy, I'm going to go for Trump now. It just seems very unlikely. It's certainly not enough to change an election. I just don't buy it. Not that I think it was okay to hack someone's email in that way. I actually think that was unethical. But what are you going to do once it's made public? Pentagon Papers in 1971. I mean, it was secret data. The New York Times. I mean, the Washington Post published that. They just made a movie about it. The Post, Tom Hanks, they celebrate them and portray them as brave people. So I think journalists sometimes, they don't exactly know who to celebrate and who not. I guess it depends who it hurts and who it doesn't hurt.
And I remember, was that The Post? Was that the name of the movie? It was actually a good movie. Well done. Tom Hanks was great in it, and it was good. But I do remember, I don't remember what specifically it was, but I do remember that the movie, in its portrayal of their heroism, got a major thing wrong. I can't remember what it was, but they either exaggerated it, or which movies tend to do, or omitted something that helped them tell the kind of story that they wanted it to be, rather than what it actually was. That happens.
I mean, at least it showed them sort of wrestling with the impact of what they were doing and if they should do it or not, and etc. Where I mean, that's at least what journalists are supposed to do. But and I don't know how you feel about this, but for the last 2 years, journalists have been taking illegal documents and illegal leaks from the government and using them to frame their own narrative about what's going on in the world with Donald Trump and collusion and things like that. And so I don't know that I completely trust them either with that information, but I'd rather let them have the freedom than not for the most part. I think it's important.
We're talking to David Harsanyi. He's the senior editor at the Federalist. And I have to ask you this because I've talked about this. I covered sports for a long time. And there was an old baseball writer named Charlie Feeney who covered the Pirates for a long time, and if a manager or anybody would start off a sentence to him by saying this is off the record, he would say nothing's off the record, because he thought that he was used too often by people who told him things off the record that they knew he was going to find out anyway. And that they were actually trying to preempt him from doing the story by telling them off the record first before he got it on his own. Is there a lot of that going on in Washington?
Yeah, there's a ton of that going on. But, having been that kind of journalist now, I write opinion. But, I think background information is important. Having people tell you things about what's going on, even though you can't print, and gives you more perspective and context sometimes. So it's definitely useful. And sometimes people have to be anonymous because, they'll get in a lot of trouble. But what's going on now is that everyone's anonymous all the time, basically. And we don't know who it is, meaning a lot of times I'm very suspicious that one of these reporters is talking to some low-level staffer about something, who've heard something, and then they exaggerate what's going on, and it's not real. Or they're lying about their sources in the sense that they're just like the administrative assistant and the boss tell them, and that's their two sources. So I think that's dangerous and a bad way to do reporting because you're easily used. If someone called me with the perfect story, that sounded perfect to my ears, I would immediately be suspicious that they were just using me. And I don't think journalists are cynical or skeptical of the people who are giving them the information.
So are there, do you think the rules are the same now as they always have been as far as when to trust an anonymous source or when to trust a source who wants to remain anonymous?
Well, I didn't hear that anyone changed the rules of journalism, but
yeah.
I don't feel like that, especially over the last 2 years, people are following those ethics and rules of journalism as much. I think there's been a lot of corruption of that, frankly. So, no.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the rules are the rules, but there are outlets that will go with maybe one source that'll work for us, but others will say won't let their reporter, the editor won't allow the reporter to go with a story unless he or she has at least 2 different sources, sometimes 3.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many mistakes over the last 2 years with Russia, collusion, and Donald Trump. And here's the thing, they all skewed in the same direction. All of them were against Trump every single time. That means susceptible to being fooled by people who are partisan, or they themselves are so partisan that they're easily fooled, and that's what happens. It's almost impossible to be wrong in the same way all the time. You have to work at that, So I think that is indicative of a real deep problem there.
I've come up with a description for it. I call it wishful thinking journalism, and that's where there's a lot of that going on.
You work backwards from a predetermined outcome, right? And then you find the people to tell you what you want to hear.
Hey, I got a little less than 2 minutes, and I wanted to ask you. You have a book coming out, or it's out already, and it's called First Freedom: A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun from Revolution to Today. Tell me what that. I mean, I think I get what it's about, but can you be a little bit specific of what's in the book?
Sure. It's not really a political book. I felt like we were arguing about guns all the time, but very rarely do people understand why gun culture even exists. What's the history of it? And so I wrote a history, a sort of accessible history about the culture of guns in America and why it's so important to so many people, because I kept hearing people just making stuff up basically about the history of guns. So I go from, the first Americans until now and give them that history so they can have an overview of how important it was to so many people and why Americans have a sort of unique and weird relationship with the gun.
I have exactly a minute, and I'm up against a hard break, so I don't want to have to interrupt you, but I just want to ask you, what did you get into the wording of the Second Amendment, what the founders intended, or didn't you go in that direction?
I do. I talk about that. I talk about the debate over the Second Amendment and what it was really about and why the wording is a little bit confusing and what those things meant in those days.
Well, I would like to have you on again to talk to you about that, and especially the word well-equipped. Well regulated, I mean, because that's what it meant in those days. I think was equipped, and then government regulation. But maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me. But I appreciate you being on, David. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. Thank you.
Okay, that's David Harsanyi of the Federalist. Great job he did there to clear up what's going on with Assange, and I do want to talk to him about that book. We'll do that down the road. We'll be back. Stick around.
With SRN News, I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. Ohio's governor has signed a pro-life bill into law. It's called the Heartbeat Bill and bans abortions after the first detectable fetal heartbeat. Republican Governor Mike DeWine followed through on his pledge to sign the measure, which passed the state legislature yesterday. Wikileaks founder Julian Assange was arrested in London and hauled into court today. British Prime Minister Theresa May says Julian Assange was not arrested just for skipping bail in the UK.
Arrested for breach of bail after nearly 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy. He has also been arrested in relation to an extradition request from the United States authorities.
During White House talks with the visiting president of South Korea, President Trump today said he's hopeful of working out a good deal with North Korea's leader. The two men discussed nuclear diplomacy in the Oval Office. Off by 14 points. This is SRN News.
G'day, I'm Scott from Plug-in Pest Free. I want to personally thank all my Plug-in Pest Free customers who've taken the time out to call, write, and who have left messages to thank me for ridding their homes and businesses of unwanted rodent and pest problems. So from me to you, I thank you. Plug-in Pest-Free is the only scientifically tested and, more importantly, consumer-proven electromagnetic pest management system since 1995. Why put up with those annoying rodents and pests any longer? Plug-in Pest-Free is 100% chemical-free, making it your safest bet to manage your rodent and pest problems around your family and pets. With a 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. So order yours today at gopestfree.com. Use promo code SAVE20 for 20% off and free shipping. That's gopestfree.com, promo code SAVE20. Don't spray and regret. Plug in and forget. Gopestfree.com today.
Dennis Prager says it's all about your moral compass.
They hate Trump so they can lie. That is the way in which their moral compass functions. I can lie because I am a leftist and I have higher principles than truth. Getting rid of a president I don't like is a higher principle than telling anything true. That is their view. They believe what I have just said.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at noon, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 1250. The Answer.
You're an insurance agent. You're also an entrepreneur looking to grow. And what better way to grow than by being your own boss? Owning your own Farmers Insurance Agency has been called one of the best small business opportunities in America. With a nationally respected brand, award-winning training, and your personal experienced business coach, your opportunity to grow is unlimited. No franchise fees required. Visit beafarmersagent.com and start growing.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Here is your new Pella Lifestyle window when open. Here it is, closed. The new Pella Lifestyle series is the #1 performing wood window and patio door for sound control, energy efficiency, and value. Keep the outside noise outside. More peace and better rest for your family. Exceptional noise control for a quieter home. For a limited time, get 50% off installation and 12 months, no payments, no interest. Call 888-77-PELLA, PellaPittsburgh.com.
Have you heard the crack of the bat, the cheers of the crowd? Have you seen the smiles on the faces of the players as they take the field? I'm not talking about the Pirates. I'm talking about what's happening in Moon Township that can only be described as a miracle. This is John Steigerwald. With the help of Pirates Charities and people like yourself, the Miracle League of Moon Township has broken ground on a brand new ball field and adaptive playground where athletes with special needs can play regardless of their ability. At miraclesinmoon.org, you can see the stunning plans for the 9,500 square foot playground and state-of-the-art ADA-compliant restroom facility with showers, wave technology, multi-level fountains and sinks, mechanical changing tables, and more. It's incredible. Our goal? To raise the remaining funds they need to bring it home by first pitch this September. Check it out at miraclesinmoon.org/donate and make your tax-deductible gift today. That's miraclesinmoon.org/donate. This message paid for by Robinson Town Center, a Zamias Properties entity.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
We've got some issues on the Parkway West this afternoon. Inbound, there's a crash off to the shoulder at Robinson Town Center. Expect heavy inbound from 79 all the way to the Fort Pitt Tunnel. Now on the Parkway East, that's really busy outbound. Boulevard of the Allies to Edgewood Swissvale. Inbound slows down from Bates Street to the Fort Pitt Bridge. And we also see some delays outbound at 65 from 19 to the McKees Rocks Bridge. That's a look at traffic. I'm Jenny Robinson.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
Mostly cloudy and quite mild tonight. The low 56 for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy, breezy, and warm. Couple of showers in the hours. High tomorrow 72. Becoming partly cloudy tomorrow night. Low 50 degrees. Then for Saturday, a mix of clouds and sunshine. Highs right around 70 degrees. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Danielle Niddle.
Pope Francis has a problem that most popes don't have.
Quite unusual. Pope Benedict, who retired from the papacy in 2013, has written this long letter coming out overnight last night about the clergy sexual abuse crisis in the Catholic Church. Just a few weeks after Pope Francis, his successor, had a big meeting, a big summit here at the Vatican with all the presidents of the world's bishops' conferences. Pope Francis really focused on the concrete actions, the structural reform that needs to happen in the church in order to protect children and prevent cover-up. And Pope Benedict took a bit of a different tack, talking about kind of societal problems, the sexual revolution, and the lack of comfortability with God in today's society. So it's quite different.
Yeah, you write for the National Catholic Reporter. That is not a publication of the Vatican, correct? It's independent?
Yeah, we're an independent publication founded in the 1960s at the Second Vatican Council, basically to bring the tools of journalism to the church to be independent reporters.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure whether we knew exactly where you were coming from as far as this is not an organ of the church necessarily.
No, we're completely independent.
Okay, so it was a 6,000-word letter that Pope Benedict put out. Was it all about clergy abuse?
It was almost exclusively about clergy abuse. The ex-pope apparently was writing for a magazine in Bavaria, where he is from, for Catholic clergy, but then it came out overnight in several kind of more right-wing Catholic publications in the U.S. and around the world. He talks about clergy abuse in the realm of the changes since the 1960s. He blames the sexual revolution for its changes in sexual morality, and then also the reforms of the church from the 1960s forward. Kind of an odd claims, especially after Pope Francis's focus on the need for the church to kind of address the issue more structurally.
Yeah, he blamed it on the 60s and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, basically. Is anybody at the Vatican buying that theory?
Well, what's kind of most interesting is that there's no template for this. We've never really had an ex-pope, at least not for the last 800 years or so. So it wasn't clear to me that the Vatican even knew that Pope had done it, or that there had been some kind of foresight in how to handle the situation. But certainly a lot of the figures and numbers of the studies of sexual abuse have shown that really this has been going on for centuries. It's a problem of structure of bishops who have too much power or don't have any accountability system. And it's a bit of an odd claim for the former pontiff to be blaming the 1960s.
Yeah, and so it's, as you say, it's kind of an interesting dynamic because this is a former pope, and we haven't seen one of those. We haven't seen a living former pope for 800 years, still dealing with things that pertaining to the church. So is this, I mean, back here in the States, we have Barack Obama criticizing Donald Trump, and some people will say that that's just not, we'll tell you that that's bad, it's impolite, let's just put it that way, that the president, it's bad form. A former president should kind of stay out of it. So what's going to be the fallout of this, of having a former pope around to comment on what the current pope is doing?
Yeah, I think we should be clear. Pope Benedict didn't directly criticize Pope Francis. He thanked him actually for his leadership in the church. But Pope Benedict certainly took a different tack than Pope Francis, noticing that. And I think I've been talking to some theologians. They've expressed some concern about this dynamic of the living former pope kind of expressing himself so freely. When Pope Benedict resigned in 2013, he said he would kind of escape from public view. He wouldn't be giving interviews. He would basically, he said, would be just praying for the new pope and for the church. And he's more or less kept to that, except on occasion. And some theologians are wondering kind of why he's chosen this moment. There's also the question of the fact that he's 92 years old. He's known to be quite frail. It's kind of odd. We're wondering if he might have gotten some help in drafting this, or kind of who was advising him to take this measure now.
Yeah, you said that the letter was published by.
To go to those websites to publish this letter. His main person who cares for him is an archbishop named Georg Ganschwein, who was the prefect of the papal household, or is the prefect of the papal household for Pope Francis, and was also that for Pope Benedict. He plays an interesting role where he still is kind of serving both popes. He was advising Pope Benedict on this letter, if he might have arranged for the opportunity to write, and then if he might have also arranged then to have it published in English and other languages around the world.
Just I'm curious, what exactly does right-wing mean when you're talking about the Catholic Church and a publication or a website? And is there a wide divide, as there is here between right and left politically in the United States or in other places?
Yeah, broadly speaking, the right-left dynamic doesn't exactly apply to the Catholic Church. People fall on so many different places and so many different on a wide spectrum. But these are the same outlets that published a letter from a former archbishop named Vigano a year ago. It was widely critical of Pope Francis, and some said was quite unfairly critical, that was ascribing the aspect of the clergy abuse crisis that took place, for example, under Pope John Paul II 20 years ago to Pope Francis. And so it's quite interesting that these same outlets who fairly openly attacked Pope Francis are now having this letter from Pope Benedict.
And it would seem to me that the Church obviously is in a tough position here because of the need for this problem to be resolved and for the purification of the Church and former bishops and cardinals, because they are popes, bishops, and cardinals, and you know they still hold a position, and you don't want to diminish those positions in general by trashing. You know what I'm saying here, by trashing the past people who held those positions.
Yeah, I think the fact of having a living former pope has put Pope Francis in a different situation than any of his predecessors, in that he can't really, out of deference, can't say anything that might be interpreted as criticism of his predecessor who is still alive. There's also the issue that some of the questions about the clergy sexual abuse crisis, for example, about the appointment of Cardinal McCarrick, who was in Washington, or the Legionaries of Christ, one of the whose founder was one of the worst sexual abusers in history, fall under the purview of Pope John Paul II, who is a saint. And of course, Pope Benedict was, at the time, Cardinal Ratzinger, who was one of Pope John Paul II's highest advisors. So there's a very complicated dynamic for Pope Francis about what he wants to say publicly or what might be interpreted as criticism of his direct predecessor.
Yeah, and so where is this this crisis right now for the Church? I mean, it would seem to be that they're in the middle of it still, but are they gaining any ground on cleaning it up, and not just cleaning it up, the problem up itself, but reclaiming the image, rehabilitating the image, I guess is a better word?
Yeah, it's quite clear that Pope Francis has made this a very serious focus of his papacy. In February, he had a first-of-its-kind summit with all the heads of the national bishops' conferences and with leaders of many of the religious orders around the world. They met at the Vatican for 4 days, at which the Pope made very clear that he wanted them to take this very seriously. He promised that concrete actions were coming, and a couple weeks ago, one of those concrete actions was manifested. The Pope issued the first overarching child protection policy for Vatican city-state, pretty broad, basically charging all staff of the Vatican and all the Vaticans to do that strong. And that they could be prosecuted in the Vatican tribunal if they did not do so. We're waiting now for more measures. We're hearing that more things are going to come, but we're not clear quite on when yet.
We're talking to Joshua McElwee. He's the Vatican correspondent at the National Catholic Reporter, and he's in Rome. What is the? How long have you been covering the Church as a journalist?
For about a decade with my newspaper, National Catholic Reporter.
Seen in perceive now compared to what it was going on when you started 10 years ago or so?
Well, clergy sexual abuse is an issue the Church has been really struggling to deal with for a long time. My newspaper started reporting on the issue in 1985. We were one of the first to do so. We continued reporting on it in the 1990s, and then when the scandal broke more widely in 2002 in Boston, we've always identified that one of the main issues was accountability for bishops who protect abusers or who move them around in different parishes. In the Catholic Church, a bishop is only really accountable to the Pope. And of course, in a church of 1.2 billion people, that's a lot for one Pope to handle. So we've been trying to point out the need for more accountability for measures of ways that lay people or ordinary Catholics can report bishops who they think are doing something wrong. This seems to be kind of the big topic at the moment. Pope Francis has spoken about this issue. 3 years ago, he appointed a first-of-its-kind commission at the Vatican to advise him on how to handle clergy sexual abuse. And now it seems we're going to be seeing in the future possibly new proposals for how bishops could be held accountable, what kind of process could be put in place. And for many Catholics, this has always been the missing link, especially after 2002 when U.S. bishops put in a whole bunch of procedures to handle abuse. That particular issue wasn't handled, and that's for many Catholics a big downfall.
And it's always been said that the cover-up is usually worse than the crime. What's the effort being done to either bring some of the people involved in the cover?
Which is so global. And it's so diverse in different countries. In the U.S. now, we've been dealing with it pretty straightforwardly since 2002. The U.S. bishops adopted their procedures. And what we're learning about, for example, with the Pennsylvania grand jury report, is mostly about things in the past. What happened before 2002 when the procedures were put in place that the church did not disclose. But for the most part, the procedures seem to be working. Clergy are being evaluated. There's procedures in process for how to report them and how to remove them from ministry when they've done something wrong. And so it would seem the big question around the world is, are those procedures being put in place in other places that haven't had the experience of the United States? And if not, how quickly can that be done? And how quickly can the Pope or his advisors evaluate when bishops aren't acting properly?
Now, non-Catholics, I notice, are quick to suggest that one way to solve the problem would be to allow priests to be married. That doesn't seem to me something that's likely to happen, but do you get the feeling at all that there's any movement toward that?
Yeah, whenever I ask church officials about those issues, they always point to studies that show that, or that they claim show that celibacy is not a direct link to sexual abuse, that voluntary celibacy can be fruitful as long as the person is evaluated, that it's good for their life, that they're checking in with themselves and their superiors about how they're doing. But for many Catholics, especially in the United States, this is really a question. They really want a more open conversation, and that's something that Pope Francis has actually encouraged. Unlike Pope Benedict or Pope John Paul II, he's been much more in favor of open conversations. When he's called the bishops to Rome, he's told them to speak frankly, to leave nothing on the table, kind of to speak their mind. And one occasion we're looking forward to is the Pope has called a synod, which is especially around the world for October on the Amazon region, all the bishops from the Amazon in South America. And some of them have said that they think they will bring up the issue of voluntary celibacy in the scope of the fact that there's a real priest shortage in South America, in the rainforest, and in the really spread out areas. And maybe they might recommend the ordaining of married men, kind of older married men who are known to be trustworthy, and the church could kind of entrust ministry to.
Hey, I appreciate it, Joshua. I'm out of time, but thanks for your help on this, and it's good to get somebody from the inside and actually from Rome. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, good. I hope it was helpful.
It was. Thank you. And
you take care.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Are you about to pay double for new windows, siding, or doors? If you haven't called Windows R Us, you just might. Many companies are overcharging area homes and businesses nearly double. With over 50 years in home remodeling, Windows R Us is more than a window company. They're the area's premier exterior replacement company for roofs, gutters, siding, doors, and of course, windows. Windows R Us will never overcharge. You'll love their no-pressure approach, straightforward pricing, and the fastest turnaround in the business. Right now, get zero interest for 12 months and up to $20,000 on new vinyl, fiberglass, or wood windows. With options like triple pane glass and names like Pella. No hidden fees or surprises ever. Your no loophole lifetime warranty covers everything, including glass breakage, at no additional cost. Mention AM 1250 with your free estimate for an exclusive 10% off. Why pay double? Visit the area's premier exterior replacement company, WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com.
Have you heard the crack of the bat, the cheers of the crowd? Have you seen the smiles on the faces of the players as they take the field? I'm not talking about the Pirates. I'm talking about what's happening in Moon Township that can only be described as a miracle. This is John Steigerwald. With the help of Pirates charities and people like yourself, the Miracle League of Moon Township has broken ground on a brand new ball field and adaptive playground where athletes with special needs can play regardless of their ability. At miraclesinmoon.org, you can see the stunning plans for the 9,500 square foot playground and state-of-the-art ADA-compliant restroom facility with showers, wave technology, multi-level fountains and sinks, mechanical changing tables, and more. It's incredible. Our goal? To raise the remaining funds they need to bring it home by first pitch this September. Check it out at miraclesinmoon.org/donate and make your tax-deductible gift today. That's miraclesinmoon.org/donate. This message paid for by Robinson Town Center, a Zamias Properties entity. Getting close to retirement? Experienced a nice Trumponomics bump in your portfolio? Well, we know the market goes up, and unfortunately, we also know it goes down. Don't risk your retirement to market whims. Learn how you can lock in those gains today by spending time with the team at Marley Financial. Todd Marley and the experts at Marley Financial can help you design a retirement plan that is bulletproof against the market's ups and downs. The team at Marley Financial uses a multitude of different techniques to make sure that you have a retirement plan that is tax-friendly, stable, and worry-free. Oh, and speaking of taxes, did you know that Marley Financial can handle that too? With all the changes in the tax laws, be sure you're taking advantage of the best possible deduction and make sure you know what adjustments to make for your overall financial picture going forward. Call today for a no-obligation consultation to see just how for 25 years the clients at Marley Financial have never had a retirement plan fail. Call 724-884-1496 today, 724-884-1496, or visit them at marleyfg.com.
G'day, I'm Scott from Plug-in Pest Free. I want to personally thank all my Plug-in Pest Free customers who have taken the time out to call, write, and who have left messages to thank me for ridding their homes and businesses of unwanted rodent and pest problems. So from me to you, I thank you. Plug-in Pest Free is the only scientifically tested and, more importantly, consumer-proven electromagnetic pest management system since 1995. Why put up with those annoying rodents and pests any longer? Plug-in Pest Free is 100% chemical-free, making it your safest bet to manage your rodent and pest problems around your family and pets. With a 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. So order yours today at gopestfree.com. Use promo code SAVE20 for 20% off and free shipping. That's gopestfree.com, promo code SAVE20. Don't spray and regret. Plug in and forget. Gopestfree.com today.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Well, we like to finish up with stupidity when we can, and it's not hard to find. And found this on the Blaze just a few minutes ago. They're coming for Little Red Riding Hood and Sleeping Beauty now. This is in Spain, so it's not here yet. But the gender stupidity is international. So an elementary school in Barcelona removed more than 200 children's books from its library to perpetuate sexist stereotypes. The two books to receive the axe include Little Red Riding Hood and Sleeping Beauty. Books for learning the alphabet, colors, and habits were also reportedly discovered to perpetuate sexist stereotypes. So learning the alphabet. The elementary school is governed by the Catalan government and noted that other schools in the city are also taking inventory of potentially problematic books as well. And the newspaper reported that at least 30% of the books in the school were considered, are you ready? Toxic. What a great word that is, huh? 10% were written from a gender perspective. Can you imagine that? What is going on? I mean, it's almost gotten boring because it's every day and it's just so stupid. But it's stupid and nobody's doing anything about it. And more people are apparently signing on to the stupidity. And what is the percentage of people, kids, that actually have any issue at all with what gender they are? What's the percentage? I've never really been able to get a really good number, but I think it's like, less than 1% or something like that. And why should the whole world be turned upside down because of this? I don't know. I keep asking the question, and I don't get any answers. Maybe I'll find one tomorrow. See you then. Bye.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250 The Answer and Salem Media Group.
Hurt in an accident? I can't help you. But if you've invented a new product, improved an existing device, or need help